King, Ms. Brady, Ms. Nelson, Ms. Spengler, and Ms. Higgs. And the people are represented by Mr. Brockler, Ms. Pearson, Ms. Stitch McGuire, and Mr. Edson. Oh, and Mr. Orman was sitting back there. We are outside the presence of the jury. Are the parties ready for the jury?
Your Honor, I think we'd indicated yesterday our intention to call Dr. Fenton probably this morning, and there had been some initial exchange of potential exhibits with the court. I had indicated an initial objection. I wanted time to think on it. I did do that, and I've communicated with Ms. Brady that it's our intention to offer into evidence the emails and the notes and the reports of Dr. Fenton. And so I didn't want the court to have to continue to belabor that or make a record about that since we're going to go down that road ourselves. I just need time this morning, and I'm telling the court we're working on it right now, to just get that exhibit together to run it by the defense before we put it on with Dr. Fenton.
All right. I did look at the exhibits last night, and for the record, they're D-TR-60, D-TR-59, and -TR-61. So defense trial exhibits 59, 60, and 61. Ms. Brady, do you want to retrieve them?
Yes, please.
And I'm assuming, Ms. Brady, you don't have any objection to Mr. Brockler introducing them?
Assuming that I agree with their exhibit, which I think I will, I will
Okay.
have no objection.
Great.
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Anything else before I bring the jury in? Anything from the defense? Ms. Nelson?
Your Honor, I'm prepared to discuss the matters that we discussed with the bench yesterday afternoon, if the prosecution is.
Let's put that off a little bit if we can. I don't think it's something that we have to take up right now. And in terms of the instruction that I offered during the morning bench conference, the lengthy bench conference we had, do you have you made a decision on that yet? Do you want it, or do you not want it, or do you want something else?
I think we've decided not to have the instruction at this time. If we change our mind, I'll let you know, but that's
Okay.
that's our thought for now.
All right. Thank you. Okay, let's bring the jury in, please. Please be seated, everyone. The record should reflect that the jury is now in the courtroom. Good morning, folks. How's everyone doing? Good. The people may call their next witness, Ms. Stitch McGuire.
Jamison Taves.
Good morning. Could I have you raise your right hand for me, please, so that I can administer an oath? You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, I do. Okay, please be seated. Thank you. Could you please tell us your full name for the record and spell your first, middle, and last names?
My name is Jamison Christian Taves, JamesonChristian. Last name Taves, Toews.
And if you would pull the microphone closer to your mouth, please, to make sure that everybody can hear you, okay? Ms. Stitch McGuire, you may proceed.
Morning. Were you at the Century 16 movie theater in Aurora, Colorado on July 19th and 20th of 2012?
Yes, I was.
Who were you at the movie theater with?
I was with my girlfriend Ashley Moser, her daughter Veronica Moser, my cousin Kaylin Bailey, and her friend Haley. I'm not sure of her last name.
How long had you known Ashley Moser and Veronica Moser Sullivan?
Approximately 2.5 years.
Did you live together?
Objection, relevance, 403.
Sustained.
What time did you arrive at the movie theater that night?
I believe it was about 8 o'clock.
What did you do when you got to the movie theater?
We got our seats, we got some food. We were really early, we were about 4 hours early, so I took my cousin, her friend, and Veronica to the arcade.
Sir, you're soft-spoken. Can you move the microphone? You can actually pull it and get it closer to your mouth, please.
Sure.
I just want to make sure everyone can hear you. Thank you. Go ahead.
Right, so was that Kaylin Bailey, Haley Hensley, Veronica that you took to the arcade in the theater?
Yes, it was.
Okay. What did you do when you were at the arcade?
Objection, relevance, 403.
What's the relevance?
Talking about the night and the events and what took place and why he perhaps was maybe more disoriented given the events that took place in the arcade.
Sustained.
Where did you find seats in the theater that night?
I would say the fourth row, but there's rows that are flat and there's rows that go stadium style, and I think we're in about the fourth row on the stadium seating.
If you're looking at the movie theater screen, are you closer to the right side of the movie theater or the left side?
I'd say we were pretty much centered.
Right. Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibit 1173.
You may.
Mr. Taves, do you recognize this diagram?
Yes.
Does it fairly and accurately represent the events that you recall witnessing in the theater on July 20th of 2012?
Yes, they do.
Your Honor, at this time I would move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1173.
Is there any objection?
There is, Your Honor. May we approach?
Yes. objection is sustained, but you may proceed as we discussed, Ms. Stitch McGuire.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Taves, I'm going to ask you to grab the cordless microphone that is up at the bench, and if you could come meet me up here at this 3D model, please. All right, Mr. Taves, if you could kind of stand back here with me and please show the jury where you were seated.
I believe I was seated in this row here in the middle.
And could you please show the jury what seat you were in and what seat everyone else was in that you were with?
I was approximately, if we were all centered, I was on the far left, and then and Ashley was next to me, followed by Veronica, Kaylin, and Haley.
All right. What happened while you were waiting for the movie to begin?
Like I said, I took the kids to the arcade.
Objection to relevance and asked and answered.
And after you got back from the arcade?
Sustained.
So what happened in the theater after you got back from the arcade?
Same objection to relevance.
Overruled.
I had worked all day, so I actually fell asleep before the movie started. Ashley woke me up right when it was starting. Not so I don't know exactly, if anything happened before the movie started. But I was pretty tired that day because I started work at 6 in the morning, and it was a midnight show. So
What do you remember after you woke up?
I was slightly paying attention to the movie, and then I heard someone scream, pardon my language, "What the hell is that?" And at the same moment I noticed something flying through the air, which turned out to be a gas canister. It flew from the front right of the theater by the exit door over my head, and I thought it landed about midway up on the steps, and I was looking over there when all of a sudden I'm stunned by something, and I look down and there's blood all over me.
When you say you were stunned by something, could you tell at the time where you were stunned by something on your body?
No, I was stunned. So
Okay, what did it feel like?
I can't remember.
What do you recall happening after that happened?
After I noticed that I was bleeding, my head was gushing blood. I looked up towards the front of the theater, and it was starting to get real foggy. I noticed a green light infrared laser going through the fog towards the my left side of the theater, and I noticed a figure holding a gun, and he was looking at people. Then I followed the laser
Objection
over.
calls for speculation. Move to strike.
Were these your observations of what you saw the shooter doing at that time, Mr. Taves?
Yes.
Let me rule on the objection. I don't know whether he was about to speculate or not, so I'll tell you, sir, that you can't speculate. All right, ask your question now.
Could you please tell the jury about your observations of the shooter that night?
I observed the shooter wearing some sort of armor. He seemed calm to me. He was. It seemed to me.
Judge, object based on the language. It seemed to me. It sounds speculative.
Again, I'll remind you, sir, you can testify about it if it's based on what you observed, but you can't speculate or guess about what you think the person was doing
Right.
or anything about the person. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Go ahead.
Okay.
What do you talk about? What you observed?
Okay. I observed after I watched the shooter shoot a few rounds, maybe 2 rounds towards my left. I looked over and I saw people running down the stairs to the far exit away from the shooter. I saw one person dragging themselves across the floor towards the exit like they were wounded in their leg. I'm not sure exactly why they were dragging their leg. And then I noticed the shooter shooting towards those people. And then the laser came back our direction but no more shots were fired at that point. And as it's coming back, I look down and I see Ashley on the ground next to me, and my cousin's past her. Veronica was underneath her. I didn't see
And who was
Veronica.
Veronica under?
Under Ashley. And then I hear Ashley say,
Objection to hearsay.
Sustained.
Excited utterance, Your Honor.
There's enough foundation at this time, sustained.
So what did you do in response to what Ashley said?
well, I told her we need to go, but she couldn't move at the time. And I think there was only one or two more shots fired after that. And then the lights came on and the shooter was gone. And a few minutes after that, my cousin called the police.
What happened after Miss Bailey called the police?
Then first responders started coming in the same
Mhm.
exit that I saw.
Object at this point, to cumulative to the prior testimony of other witnesses and relevance.
Ask the question again, Mr. McGuire.
What did you do after Miss Bailey called 911?
Okay, the objections overruled.
After Miss Bailey called the police and the first responders came in, I started alerting the first few that came through the door that I have a pregnant woman that's
Objection 403.
Overruled.
You can continue, Mr. Taves.
that I have a pregnant woman that's down, that I have a 6-year-old that's down, and I was basically screaming at them to get them attention as fast as possible. They came down. They immediately came down to help us. They checked. They checked their pulses. And Ashley had a pulse, but Veronica did not. So they carried Veronica.
I'm going to interject an objection at this point to 401, 403 due process.
The objections overruled.
You can continue, Mr. Taves.
So they picked up Veronica and they took her down to the stairs and down towards the exit, which I followed. The first responder that was carrying her, he began to give her CPR on the floor.
Could you please show the jury where it was that he gave?
He carried her down in this area. I'm not sure how close to the door, how close to this entrance, but it was in that row. And when he put her on the floor, I got down next to him
Same
and
objection, Your Honor. 401, 402, 403 due process at this point.
The objections overruled, Ms. Spangler.
You can continue, Mr. Taves.
at that point he began giving her CPR, and while he was giving her CPR, I believe one or two more responders were taking Ashley past us towards the exit, and the responder that was giving CPR to Veronica told me that I needed to go.
Objection to calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
So what did you do in response to what the first responder told you?
So I can't say what the first responder said.
You can't, Mr. Taves. I apologize.
Okay.
If you could just talk about what you did to go help Miss Mosier.
I helped the responders get Ashley into one of the cars that was right outside the exit.
And could you just show the jury what exit that you exited from on the diagram?
We exited the to our right, your left at the exit.
And then did you go outside to that sidewalk area and get into a police car?
Yes.
All right, I have no further questions for you at this model. I'm going to ask you to take the witness stand again. Thank you very much. What happened, and I'm going to ask you to pull that microphone close to you again too, Mr. Taves. What happened when you got in the police car?
When I got in the police car, an officer got in the back seat with Ashley and applied pressure to her chest wound. I thought that Veronica would be coming with us, so
I'm going to object at this point to 403, 401.
Overruled.
and then when I realized that she was going to Children's Hospital, they told me to go with Ashley. I didn't know what to do. I told them I can't leave her, and they basically forced me to stay in the car, and we drove to the hospital,
What hospital did you go to?
the Medical Center of Aurora.
What injuries did you sustain that night, Mr. Taves?
I believe it's buckshot shrapnel in my left side of my head.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked as People's Exhibits 2037, 2038, and 2039.
Yes.
Mr. Taves, do these photographs fairly and accurately represent the injuries that you sustained on July 20th of 2012?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time, I'd move for the admission of People's Exhibits 2037, 2038, 2039.
Is there any objection?
No additional objections.
I believe that P-TR-7 and 2038 were subject to my amended order D98B, and so for those reasons, or for the reasons articulated in that order, those two exhibits are admitted, given that there is no additional objection or additional record made with respect to those two exhibits. P-TR-2039 is admitted without objection, and all three may be published.
Thank you, Your Honor. If I could please have 2037. Mr. Taves, is this picture of you on the night of July 20th of 2012?
Yes, it is.
If I could please have 2038. This picture of your hands from the night of July 20th of 2012.
Yes, they are.
And if I could please have 2039. Picture of your legs from July 20th of 2012.
Yes, they are.
I have no further questions for this witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any cross-examination?
No.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Please, thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
All right, sir, thank you. Ms. Teach McGuire, you may retrieve this.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Call your next witness, please.
Stephen Barton.
Good morning. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. All right, please be seated. Tell us your name, please, and spell your first, middle, and last names.
My full name is Stephen Alexander Barton. That's Stephen Alexander, B as in boy, Arton.
Ms. Teach McGuire, you may proceed.
Thank you. Were you at the Century 16 movie theater on July 19th and 20th of 2012 in Aurora, Colorado?
I was.
Please tell the jury about what you were doing in Colorado on that day.
Well, I was in Colorado that day because I was in the middle of a cross-country bike trip with my friend Ethan, who I've known since we were about 5 years old. And so we were traveling into Aurora to visit our friend Petra, who lives there.
Where did you start your bike ride?
We started in Virginia, and we were heading to California.
You just happened to be in Colorado on that particular day.
That's correct.
And what is the full name of your friend Ethan and the friend that you were visiting?
Ethan's full name is Ethan Rodriguez Torrent. Do you want me to spell it?
Sure.
Okay, ETHANRODRIGUEZ-TORRENT. And we were visiting Petra Anderson, PETRAANDERSON.
When did you decide to go see Batman that night?
That afternoon of July 19th, 2012, we knew it was the big summer blockbuster, but since we were in the middle of this trip, we didn't have a lot of free time to see movies, but we happened to get in early that day, and we decided to treat our friend Petra, who was hosting us that night, to the movies. So we bought her a ticket, and we bought tickets for ourselves.
What time did you arrive at the movie theater that night?
We arrived, I would say, around 11:15 p.m.
And what did you do when you got to the movie theater?
Well, we already had our tickets because we'd purchased them before, so we bought some concessions, some candy, and headed into the theater shortly after that.
Your Honor, if I may approach the witness with what's been marked for identification as People's Exhibit 1247.
Yes.
Mr. Barton, I'm handing you a diagram of the theater. If you could do me a favor and put your full name on there, today's date, and then label where you were seated, where Mr. Rodriguez-Torrent was seated, and where Miss Anderson was seated. All right, may I retrieve that, Your Honor?
Yes.
All right, and could you please tell the jury about where in the theater you found seats?
So when we arrived, we were actually surprised by how many seats were still available. And so we walked up into the stadium seating and sat, I would say, basically in the center of that section. So from front, back, and left, right. So if you're looking at the theater, left, right, we were in the center, and I'd say we were maybe towards the back of that section, but not too much beyond the center of that section.
All right, this time I move for the admission of People's Exhibit 1247.
Is there any objection?
No, sir.
All right, without objection, P-TR-1247 is admitted.
Thank you, and Your Honor, with the court's permission, I'd ask Mr. Barton to meet me at the 3D model.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Barton, if you could please show the jury where you were seated and point out your seat and then the seats of your friends.
Sure. Okay, so I was seated somewhere around here. Petra was sitting in between us because Ethan was sitting right there.
All right, please tell the jury about what you witnessed in the theater that night.
Well, we got there probably around 11:30, like in the theater itself. So we sat there and talked. It was a pretty normal night at the movies. And then the previews came on, and I remember, during the previews, I remember distinctly seeing, people who were very excited to see these movies. And I remember seeing a very large gentleman sitting maybe 3 seats in front of us during the Superman preview in particular. This stands out in my mind, and him getting up and just being so excited to be there. But then the movie started, and about 20 minutes into the movie itself, I would say, I remember seeing an object basically pass through my line of sight when I was looking at the screen, and it made this like hissing noise, and I had no idea what it was, but it landed somewhere around here, and as soon as it landed, I remember seeing up here by the emergency exit this flashing light and this very loud noise, like a booming noise, and it sounded to me like fireworks. And so I'm seeing this light. I think it's a prank. I don't really know what's going on. I was very disoriented. But shortly after that, maybe 2 seconds afterwards, I noticed that people were screaming, were getting out of their seats. The room was starting to fill with smoke. And about that same time, I just instinctively held my hands in front of my face. And in that same moment, I felt this immense pressure on my chest and basically my whole upper body. And I fell forward in front of my seat.
Could you describe for the jury how your body was positioned when you fell forward in your seat?
So I just, fell into the I guess you'd call it a row in front of the seats, and I think I fell on my knees, but I think I then sat backwards, so I was just sitting in front of my seat.
Great. What do you recall happening after that?
Well, the first thing I remember is that I couldn't feel my left arm at all. It was suddenly completely numb, and I actually thought that it had been blown off or something, and I actually had to look at it to confirm that it was still attached to my body. And the other thing I remember more than anything was that my neck was just swelling with blood, and it was bleeding very profusely. And I knew that I had been shot, but I really didn't know the extent of my injuries. I just knew that there was something in my neck. And I mean, I was scared to death because I thought, what if my artery has been hit, or, my neck was severely injured. So I mean, I just remember sitting there and thinking, this could be it. This might be the end.
What's the next thing you remember happening in the theater?
So while I was sitting there and I guess taking stock of my own injuries, I remember next to me Petra screaming at the top of her lungs, and I remember on her right side Ethan calling 911. He was on the phone. He had the presence of mind to do that right away. And all along there was just that booming noise. It kept going, and it was, to me, it was almost like one every second. It sounded methodical to me. And so that was continuing. I was sitting in my own blood, and Petra was screaming. Ethan was screaming. I didn't know why they stopped. I didn't know. And in that same moment,
Please tell a jury about what you recall happening after you went through that exit door.
so after I went out that exit, there's a stairway that leads into the lobby, and I remember going down that stairway with a lot of other people, many of whom were covered with blood. And in the lobby, I remember hearing a couple more gunshots and wondering if there was another shooter. But I was just, moving with this whole group of people out into the parking lot.
You didn't see another shooter in the lobby.
No.
What happened after that?
Well, once I got out into the parking lot, there were, I don't know, maybe 100 people out in the parking lot, sort of confused, milling about.
Objection 403, cumulative.
Sustained.
Were you transported for medical treatment?
I was. I was transported first to a triage area in the parking lot, and then to the medical center of Aurora.
How were you transported to the medical center of Aurora?
All right, hold on.
Did you observe any injuries on the person in the police car?
Objection, relevance 403.
Sustained.
What injuries did you sustain as a result of the shooting?
And just,
Police car with me. He had a.
all right, hold on. Next question.
Did you observe any injuries on the person in the police car?
Objection, relevance 403.
Sustained.
What injuries did you sustain as a result of the shooting?
And just for the record, sustained under Rule 403, cumulative.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I received multiple shotgun wounds. So, do you want me to describe that in further detail?
Please do.
So I had 4 pellets in my face, at least 3 in my neck, 3 in my chest, 3 in my right shoulder, 3 in my forearm, 1 in my right hand, and 1 in my left hand.
Your Honor, if I may approach Mr. Barton with what's been marked as People's Exhibits 4874, 2022, 2023, 4875.
You may.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I have no objection to these exhibits.
All right, are you moving their admission, Ms. Teach McGuire?
Please, Your Honor.
All right, without objection, they're all admitted and they may be published.
If I could please have 2021.
Did you say 2021? I think you indicated that you were approaching with 2022 and 2023, but not 2021.
I apologize, Your Honor. If I could have 2022. All right, Mr. Barton, please describe for the jury what we see in this photograph.
So this is my right shoulder, and you can see pieces of gauze that are covering the entry wounds for the shotgun pellets.
If I could have 2023. Please describe for the jury what we see in this photograph.
So you can see my right eye. That's where one of the shotgun pellets entered my head. There's also a spot by my mouth, which is where another shotgun pellet entered and actually fractured my molar and embedded in my right cheek.
Right, if I could please have 4874. Describe for the jury what we're seeing in this photograph.
So the big wound you see is where a shotgun pellet entered my cheek and exited. You can see also the exit wound.
Right, and what is underneath the gauze that we see in that photograph?
So that is from the emergency surgery I had that night at the Medical Center of Aurora to remove some pellets.
Where did they remove those pellets from?
From my neck. So they made 2 large incisions.
If I could please have 4875. And then what else can we see in this photograph?
Once again, there's gauze covering, the small pieces of gauze that are covering the entry wounds. There's also an uncovered one on my left chest, and also the gauze from my neck surgery. And you can also see my chin where another shotgun pellet entered.
Where were they able to remove pellets from your body, Mr. Barton?
Well, that night, just from my neck.
All right, did you subsequently have other pellets removed from your body?
I did.
Please
yes.
tell the jury about where those were removed.
Those were removed from my left hand, the palm of my hand, my right forearm, and my face. And there was also, I forgot, the one on my shoulder that was removed.
How many pellets still remain in your body, Mr. Barton?
8.
Where do those remain?
There are 3 in my chest, 2 in the muscle, and 1 basically in my sternum. And there are 2 in my neck still.
Did you also have to have oral surgery for the molar that was fractured?
Yes, I did. It was replaced with an implant.
Do you have any lasting injuries as a result of the shooting?
I do. If you remember, I said my left arm went numb that night. That was because of nerve injury to the left side of my torso. And so that is still very weak, and it causes me discomfort pretty much when I'm doing anything, at least some discomfort. And my neck is still very sore and becomes very sore at the end of the day.
I have no further questions for this witness. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. King, do you have any cross-examination?
I do not, thank you.
All right. And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May this witness be released from his subpoena?
Please, thank you, Your Honor.
Is there any objection?
None, thank you.
All right, sir, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Orman, call your next witness, please.
We're recalling Chris Rogopoulos to the stand, Your Honor.
Good morning again. You solemnly swear or affirm under penalty of law that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
All right, please be seated. I know you've been here before, but could you remind us of your name, please?
Yes, sir.
Christopher Rogopoulos,
And can you spell your first and last names, please?
Christopher Rigopoulos.
Mr. Orman, you may proceed.
Thank you. Sir, last time we had you here, which seems like quite a while ago, you explained the process that you and your team went through in bagging the evidence from the apartment, taking it on a plane to Quantico, cataloging it and photographing it, and processing it. Do you recall that?
Yes, sir.
And I want to ask you about a couple of pieces of evidence, and I want to put up a photograph exhibit that has previously been admitted. If we could please put up 4367. And now, we talked last time about how all the different items were assigned a Q number. Did this one have a Q number?
Yes, it did.
What was the Q number on this one?
This item of evidence is Q43.
And if we could please zoom in on sort of the lower right-hand corner of that. And do you see sort of a thing that looks like a tape in there?
Yes, I do.
And did your team actually remove tape from Q43?
Yes, they did.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
With what I've marked as People's Exhibit 800.
Yes, you may.
You recognize that?
I do.
Now, does that have a Q number on it?
It does.
What Q number does that have on it?
This is Q43.1.
Okay, now, does Q, because it's .1, does that mean it's related to Q43?
Yes, it does.
And do you know what Q43.1 is?
Yes, I do.
In fact, are your initials on Q43.1?
Yes, they are.
What is Q43.1?
Q43.1 is a piece of tape.
And is that the piece of tape removed from Q43?
Yes, it is.
Your Honor, I move to admit People's Exhibit 800.
Is there any objection?
No objection.
All right, without objection, P-TR-800 is admitted.
Your Honor, I have no further questions on direct examination.
Thank you. Is there any cross-examination?
No.
And the jury does not appear to have any questions for this witness. May he now really be released from his subpoena. Mr. Orman.
Actually, can we approach on that, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Rigopoulos, you are subject to being called back again. Thank you.
Sir.
Call your next witness, please.
Deborah Foley.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, I don't have the microphone. Could we approach while this witness is coming in?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ma'am, we're going to go ahead and take a break before the prosecution calls you, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you. All right, members of the jury, we're going to go ahead and take an early morning break, so please keep in mind my advisements during the break. Enjoy the break. I'll see you back here in about 20 minutes. Thank you. The record should reflect that the jury has exited the courtroom. Is there anything we need to talk about at this time on behalf of the people? No? On behalf of the defense? No? Okay, let's take our break. I'll see you back here in about 20 minutes. The court will be in recess. Thank you.